Sheriff's Office.
All right. And
Yeah, I'm Brian Brown, lead chaplain with the Pasco Sheriff's Office.
all right, cool. And so obviously, then we got Miss Terry on as well. From the
Yes, I work in the office of the
I heard something. It sounded like you were going underwater.
It sounds like she was going under there.
Can you hear me?
I know I listened.
Yes,
I know the thunderstorm going on over there. But anyway, I just want to say thank you guys for jumping on the call with us this morning. Obviously, with everything that's been going on, you guys have been pretty good about responding, and we've been pretty good about responding. But just want to kind of keep it ongoing so there's not a major blow up or a major incident that causes us to have conversations or get together, just talk and appreciate one another. So what we want to do as a church is obviously is to continue to build that relationship and strengthen that relationship between our church and law enforcement, primarily as an African-American church, as minorities in law enforcement. And so just real quick, want to tell us what you guys have going on?
Yeah, no, first off, I apologize. With Zoom, you keep forgetting you have to look at the circle there rather than look at the screen. It keeps throwing you off the whole time because you want to look at the person, but you want to look at the screen. So I apologize, everyone watching this, if my head keeps shifting back and forth.
Same here.
I would say we are blessed in this community. The outpouring of support both ways, and everybody just wants to, work together, get along together. But it's interesting, and I'll say this from a personal side. Every time you keep trying to find solutions, it always goes back to one thing, and that's our Lord. The fact that if you believe in Jesus, you have a faith. The fact that what we find the word of Bible is that how to treat everybody, how to get along, how to respect, how to love one another as God has loved us. And those are those type of things that we recognize that's what's going to heal our society. That's going to heal people. Because unfortunately, what you're finding is people just get angry for the sake of being angry right now. And especially on social media, people are just going off on each other. And so we're trying to, hopefully from a sheriff's office perspective, show that, hey, we can be above this. We're going to show people that we're a professional organization. We're out there to serve everybody. We're out there to help everybody. And so that's one of the things we have going on, just so everybody's aware in a community, what we're dealing with specifically. Our mental health and substance abuse calls are through the roof. It is very sad what we're seeing right now. We have our behavioral health intervention team. We call them BHIT team for short. And so their job is to we identify people that have been consistently calling in to 911 center, going out, reaching for help, people that have overdosed. And so we go out to individuals and we've been working with them. We're finding out that their tensions, their issues are escalating. What our deputies on patrol are finding out is that they're going to overdose calls where people sadly have died, talking to family members or those that have actually survived an overdose. We're finding out that people that haven't used substances in over a year are now going back to it because of everything going on in society. This is where they're finding their hope, is in these narcotics. And so it's sad because that's where they're finding their death. And so that's something that we're finding out there, even young age. I mean, these are teenagers, young adults, and I can imagine they're thinking they were going to go off to college, they're going to go off to start their world and live, and now they're being restricted. And so I think that's something that, people are looking for hope, people are looking for faith, they're finding it in the wrong places. Other things we're seeing, fentanyl, it wasn't covered by the media, but we put it on our own social media site. So if you follow the Pasco Sheriff's Office site, you'd see it. Our narcotics investigators were able to take 430,000 lethal doses of fentanyl off the street in the past 45 days. 430,000 lethal doses. It's very small, but it's still, that's what's killing people out there is the fentanyl. The opioids, it's the fentanyl. That's what we're seeing. A lot of meth out there, but it's the fentanyl use. Other things we have going on, trying to be on a positive note, because we unfortunately see so many sad things. Over the summer, we were able to, it was less of a group because of just the circumstances. We had a forensics camp for teenagers where they went to go out there and did CSI investigations, learn how to do that at the Forensics Institute for Research, Security, and Tactics, which we're building which, we're partnering with the universities, as strange as it is right now for all of us, but we're working together. We're trying to bring, opportunities, especially for our youth. One of the things that's going on also is Sergeant Natalie Jones. She was just promoted. She works in our jail. She goes out in the community and talks to teenagers and young adults about, middle school, high school kids, about what law enforcement does. So she's out there building that bridge in the community. And it's interesting because I was talking to her yesterday about it, and it's sad. I said, how many of the kids you deal with come from single family homes? And she said about 75%. And so, there's kids that are in tough situations that, they're looking for opportunity, and they're out there, and this is largely minority communities that she's going into predominantly. And she said, a lot of times at first they're reluctant to talk to her. Then they start getting involved and they're interested. And by the time she's done, she goes, I got people that want to go into law enforcement, want to go into corrections. So I said, well, this is great. So I told her, whatever resources you need, we will help you get. So those are things that are going on. So much other things going on with, COVID related, but those are things I just want to put on your radar. But I know there's some questions out there. So Pastor, yeah, what else do you have for us?
I got a couple of questions for you real quick. Let me pull them back up. And the first one was, let's see, let me turn this thing. It is, what skills-based training and problem solving, conflict mediation, and de-escalation tactics are available to the officers at the Pasco County Sheriff Department?
Yeah, so it's a good question, because that's what everybody wants to know in today's day and age. How do you don't want to go from 0 to 100 in a situation. You want to be able to, hey, the first thing for all of us is de-escalate the situation.
Yeah.
I can tell you one of the greatest tools we ever placed out there for de-escalation is the body-worn cameras. Mm-hmm. We've had them for over 5 years now. But it shows, deputies they know going on. They're being videotaped. The other person's being videotaped. So it's not something where they can go back and say, oh, that never happened. It's like, no, it's on videotape. We have it. But at the same time, everybody remember, it's technology, and technology will fail. But at the same time, it is a tool that has been very successful in, helping us, because it's a training mechanism that if somebody does complain, we can go back and evaluate it through the lens of the camera, through what the deputies saw, what the person they were interacting with saw. So that absolutely was one of the best tools we ever put in the sheriff's office. But we do have training. We have mental health training that we do. So tons of mental health training for all our members. And it's one of those things that it's not only helpful for when they interact with citizens out there, but it's also for themselves, because you think about the post-traumatic stress that our members deal with. It builds up and builds up and builds up. And the military's done a great job talking about it, but in law enforcement, we don't. And you think about it, in the military, they go off and then they come back home, and it's, in their home, it's normal. For us, every day we go to our job, it's not happy stuff. We're seeing, people always call us when the worst things happen, not when the best things are happening. So that is a mental strain. We've brought in people, there's a book called Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. We brought in Dr. Gilmartin. He's spoken to our people. There's constantly training. I can let Pastor Brown go into further, but one of the things we also, with our family support network. So anybody can imagine that in your professional career, things could be going great. But at home, if things are going horrible, it will travel with you to your work and your professional experience. So that's one of the things that Pastor Brown works on with our members and our family support network, is trying to help build up the family situation so that those things correlate, and help in the professional. And make no mistake about it, law enforcement officers, we're human beings too. We're from our society. We're from the community. It's not that we're, put into a box and then, as soon as your shift starts, wound them up, let them go, and then come back. We have things that follow us too, whether it be from home or other things we experience. So that's something that, we're working on for our members. But mental health, from the family standpoint, from the individual standpoint, and even, we're working on we've been doing multicultural training for years. Pasco County 25 years ago does not look like Pasco County today. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that we've been doing, is have a multicultural training. We've done it before. We're revamping it again, but it's not something that we're doing just because of all the events that have happened. This is something that we've been continuing doing over time. So with that, I'll let Pastor Brown talk a little bit more about the family support network if he wants to.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Sheriff. And thank you, Pastor, for your leadership in this area. I think the more conversations that we have, the better we are as a community, and you know, in local partnerships as well. So thank you with that. And of course, at the Sheriff's Office, we also value the partnerships with the local faith communities, you know, like your church. And so again, thanks for that. You know, that question around mental health training, it really goes deep. That's really what the sheriff was talking about. Not only just the members inside of our agency, but every single one of those members go home to a spouse, a significant other, and a child or children. And so in 2015, through the sheriff's leadership, we started a program called the Family Support Network, which is designed specifically for those spouses, significant others, and the children of our agency members. And so what we do is we train those members of our agency as well, the spouses. We train them on mental health. We train them on how to respond when a spouse comes home. We train them on even some of the same scenarios that their spouse will go into when they go to work. That way, when they come home and they're having conversations, there's some commonalities there. They're not living in a vacuum over here that the spouse doesn't know about. And then a second thing that really aligns with that is, you know, agency members have children. And so we want them to be aware of all of the things that their mom or dad could be going through as well, and just kind of how to handle some of those things, you know, kind of going along with that. One of the phrases that we use often here at the agency is, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. And so that really is on the forefront of our computers. It's a statement that we use often, because it doesn't really matter if you're in law enforcement, if you're a common citizen, if you're a husband, if you're a wife, if you're a child. It really doesn't even matter what profession you're in. If you live in our county, what we want you to know is that it's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to stay that way, because there are multiple resources, either through the county, through the local faith community, or even inside of our agency, that we can partner together and to bring what you and I would know as hope and healing, right? We could bring hope and healing to those who are going through those difficult moments. And so to continue to piggyback on that statement of what type of training is out there, through our community and agency resiliency part of our agency, that unit there, we do one-day trainings that are set up in each bureau that really walk through things like mental health. Partnering with our critical incident stress management team. You might often hear that referred to as CISM, but it stands for Critical Incident Stress Management Team. Our peer support team, where we align veteran deputies with our new deputies to become a peer support to them, to kind of help them through just different things that they're going through, whether it be related to their job or maybe it be related to their home. They have a peer support. And then we also have a mentoring program that's just about to get off the ground, where again, we have mentors that come alongside of our agency members and walk them through. So if you have a deputy who maybe is going through, they've been married for a year and a half, right? And it is the honeymoon period is over, and now they're beginning to have some marital issues or marital concerns or relationship issues. We want to link them with somebody who's already walked through that process and has put principles in place that have the ability to help them to keep that relationship together. Because again, as you and I know, and it's strong in law enforcement, but as you and I know, divorce is a word that we really shouldn't use, right? We should use restoration, reconciliation. So we want to point them to that. So those are all types of trainings that we have inside of our agency, and those help with that mental health.
Okay. And so, and kind of looked like you touched on the second question as well, as far as, describing some community-based programs that you guys offer. And so we're going to get to the third question. But before we get to the third question, to something that you said earlier, Sheriff Nako, and Pastor Brown. So what can we do? I think what would be beneficial, because obviously I'm looking at this and there's so much division, I would say, on a lot of things. especially as we're in the political season. Everybody is disagreeing about everything over everything and everything and everything, which for someone like myself and a lot of people at our church or people that we serve, their primary issue is we just want solutions, not necessarily finger pointing and blaming, and not necessarily, so we're not really interested in all that. But what are some of the things that we can do, obviously, to help out? Because there's this chasm that's created by events, one-offs, and people who unfortunately seem to garner a major amount of attention, and seem to garner most of the media coverage and things of that nature. And so what is it like for me as a minority in a position that's, of a minority church, and then you as a sheriff over the sheriff's department, where you have these two groups of people, where if you look in the news, in the media, there's this growing divide. But when you actually talk one-on-one, that's not the sentiment from one person to the next person. And so what are some things that I would say proactively where you think that can happen where, as a community, we feel protected by law enforcement, but as law enforcement, you feel respected by the community that you serve? So just to hear your thoughts on that so we can,
No, I appreciate it. That's actually a great point, and thank you very much. So I think a couple of things. One is, as a leader in a community, when you hear something, in the church, a member comes to you and says, I'm really upset about this. I heard this, I heard that. Please let us know immediately. Oh, somebody's calling you already.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Somebody already had an issue. They're calling you already. Call us immediately. Let us know if, there's a problem. It could be the simplest thing, but let us know, only because then we can resolve it. The problem is, and we all know this, as soon as one person gets upset, they tell 10 different people.
Yeah.
Tells people usually about something good that happens. They usually tell them about something that upsets them because they want to get them off their chest. So they tell somebody, and then it keeps going and going. But if we can resolve that immediately, just say, hey, this happened, we'll resolve it. Let us know, we'll fix it immediately. The other one too is from a community. I could tell you the biggest impact on our members is when they walk into a 7-Eleven, a Wawa, somewhere, and people say, thank you. I appreciate what you guys are doing. You have no idea what that means to our members. So the one thing is, because of COVID, we've been very limited on our interactions, people coming into the district doing those things. But from a church perspective, if you did a short video, we can push that out to our members and say, hey, we represent this church, we represent this community, we represent, whoever we want to say, and say, thank you. These are things that we think about, but we want to make sure you understand that we appreciate everything you do. And that's something we can get out to our members, because it's just it just emphasizes again that, we can't control what happens outside of Pasco County. We can only control what goes on within our county and in our own community. But it shows that everybody's willing to sit down at the table, talk together, support each other. And I think would be a positive force.
And so basically, and obviously, if I see an officer, a sheriff or deputy, they're on the clock and they're working, so I probably can't just go and shoot the gab with them. And I understand that. I get that. And so basically, I think that just the interaction, more personal interaction, will probably be a little bit more beneficial. And I know you guys come out here a couple times in the past. And so, and that's kind of the purpose of this as well, is that we don't want somebody else to tell us how we should think or how we should feel, even though we know everything that's going on. But I don't want that to limit me in the, I guess, good experiences I can have where I am. Right. And so, and to me, that's important, because as a church and as a group in the community, we want to make sure that we are impacting in such a way where we're building bridges and relationships, versus having the divide. I think sometimes we have to search for a certain amount of commonality before we can then talk about the bigger things, you know, or the more traumatic things. Unfortunately, you know, it's like a first date. You don't go into your first date just saying everything, you know. You build up to it, you know. You kind of go, like you said, Pastor Brian, you go through the honeymoon stage. Nobody goes into their first year of marriage and just act like it's full blown 20 years. You gotta ease into it. Right. And I'm hoping, in all honesty, I'm hoping that as we continue in this relationship, as we continue these communications, these talks, it creates a safe place, because obviously we tell the truth. There are certain apprehensions on both sides for various reasons. But I think as a relationship develops, we'll be able to talk through those and discuss those. And one of the biggest things is when I know that the other person really gets it or understands or has like the best intentions in mind, it makes the relationship so much better. And so that's the purpose of this, is just for us, and especially not just our church, but I think our community, to see that we can coexist and we can work together. And truth be told, we actually need one another if we're going to be the community that we're supposed to be. And obviously, if our church is in Pasco County, we want to have as possible as good a relationship as we can with the governing authorities and everything. And so to me, it works both ways. It works both ways. And so with that, the other question was, and that was kind of off script on my part, but the other question was, what is it as far as diversity within the department? So can you speak to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, we're fortunate. Several years ago, it might have been about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, we actually worked even harder in the community to diversify ourselves, to represent the community that we serve. And so one of the news stations just recently did an article. It was on TV. They did a story that Pasco Sheriff's Office is the most diverse in Tampa Bay region. And so I say that in the fact that, you know, we definitely want to represent the community that we serve. And the fact that, you know, one of the things, it was interesting. There were several different things, as we said, you know, we want to make sure we represent the entire community and we look like the entire community. And it's not just about saying, oh, here's an application, come on board, you're hired. The first thing we recognized is that there was many people in many different communities that the feedback we got was, well, I didn't realize you were hiring me. You know, I didn't realize I would be accepted. So we're like, well, yes. So that was the first hurdle we had to overcome, was that people had a misconception that they never thought they would be able to be hired at the Pasco Sheriff's Office or be wanted. The second thing is, and it's interesting, as we've gone through this, we learn along the way, and, you know, we've learned very valuable lessons that we're passing off now to other organizations. So you just don't hire somebody in the organization, say, okay, you're on board, high five, see you later. There was also mentoring that we did. So the mentoring process was, you know, how are things going? What are, you know, feedback? Because, you know, there's going to be reluctancy. There's people, I say this in the right way, we're human beings. Law enforcement officers are human beings. Not every human being, there was only one that ever walked on water. The rest of us we're all flawed. So people would, you know, their interaction sometimes with new members that came on board may not have been the best. So we would get feedback and we'd say, okay, what happened? Let's review this. And we would go back to those type of situations to make sure that the minority, you know, the diversity, the minority members coming in did not feel alienated from the rest of the organization, that they felt empowered, that, hey, you know, sometimes I'll tell you, it goes both ways. Sometimes you're like, wow, that was really horrible what happened. We're going to deal with that individual, and they were disciplined. The other side was actually, you know, them telling you that your report writing is not good is not because of your, you know, your skin color or your gender. It's because your report writing wasn't good. Like, we have to, but we'll build you up. We'll help you with that. So it was a learning experience on both sides. And one of the nice things about it is, you know, there's organizations that will just say, well, we're going to hire a minority in a command staff just to show everybody we're diverse. And you know what? Everybody sees it for what it is. The reality is, to really change an organization, you have to build it up from the bottom up, because the bottom up is really the most empowering. And so what we've done over the years is we've been in a position to hire a lot more minorities in our community because they feel accepted. They're on board. And let me say this, they are absolutely qualified. They are as qualified as everybody else. And that's the other stigma, unfortunately, that you would hear out there. But we fixed it. And the fact that now they recognize everybody coming on board was treated the same way. They're all fair. And the nice thing is we are promoting from within the members that have come on board from the ground level. And when you do that and they come in from the ground level to get promoted, everybody's like, yeah, that person's squared away. That's a good person. That's how, you know, you can't change that culture overnight. You can't change Walmart overnight. You can't change Amazon overnight. You can't change same. And law enforcement may be harder because it's like the military. We are just, it's intrinsically a tougher organization. But this is, I said, this is not going to be fixed in the first year, second year, we're multiple years into it. But over time, it's going to change the culture, which will be sustained rather than have one person in place and everybody says, oh yeah, you know, they just promoted, they brought that person in, but once they leave, it's going back to the same way. No, we're changing our culture over time. And that's why I think it's more successful. But at the same time is, I go back to it, you know, when Jesus said, love one another as I've loved you, treat other, you know, the golden rule. Those are those type of things is if we, and that's why I'm so happy with the work Pastor Brown's doing. If we can change hearts and minds to the fact that people are saying, you know what, yeah, we represent our community. I'm happy to work. You know, I grew up in a neighborhood that I didn't have people of different color, different races next to me. But now in my squad, you know, in the read-off room, there's multiple different people, but they're just like me. You know, we went through the same things. We've had shared the same hardships. That's what changes a culture, and that's what changes a community.
That's cool. And so to that point, and just to reiterate again, first of all, I want to say thank you guys for hopping on. And I know that you got a lot going on, and you know it's 10:30, so I'm not going to keep you. I know it's a lot of moving pieces to get this together. But I want to say thank you guys for hopping on and sharing with us. And obviously, we look to do more things like this in the future. And then also when we do open back up, and when we do have like a career fair or a job fair, another business expo, I want to make sure that you all are invited to set up a booth as well, so that people can get the applications, see what. Because I think most people think law enforcement, they think just in the field, in a squad car and all that stuff, and not realizing different divisions within law enforcement, whether psychology, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, you know, forensics, other things that they can do as well. So we would love to have you guys come out and present that as well when we have our next fair, whenever this COVID stuff settles down. So when that happens, you know, you guys be a part of it, and then we'll have another conversation. And I appreciate you guys being proactive and not waiting until there's another like George Floyd or another blow up before something like this happens. That we can kind of come together and let it be known that, you know, this is normal. It's not just something we're doing just because. And so thank you guys, and I'll let you go because I know y'all got a lot to do today. But y'all have,
Pastor.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Y'all too.